Oh, what you just heard wasn't a traffic stop gone wrong. It wasn't a case of mistaken identity in a parking lot. Old. This was a uniformed police officer assaulting a 38-year-old civil rights attorney in her own backyard at her own birthday party. Old, surrounded by 47 witnesses holding smartphones and paper plates. The officer's name was Marcus Draylen, 12-year veteran. 41 complaints. Old. 0 sustained violations on his record before that Saturday afternoon. By the time this was over, Draylen would lose his badge, his pension eligibility. Old, and become the subject of a federal civil rights investigation. The city would write a check for $6.8 million. And the entire interaction, from first contact to the moment his sergeant physically removed him from the property, would be captured on 9 separate cell phone videos, each one more damning than the last. The victim's face would require 14 stitches. Old. Her legal career would expand into a nationwide consulting practice on police accountability. And the birthday cake, chocolate ganache with raspberry filling, old, custom ordered from a bakery 3 weeks in advance, would become evidence Exhibit A7 in federal court, old, preserved in a police evidence locker with frosting still matted with blood. This is what happens when pattern meets consequence. When camera phones meet qualified immunity. When a noise complaint becomes a $6 million mistake. Dr. Janelle Reeves, Stanford Law Class of 2011, NAACP Legal Defense Fund Fellowship recipient, partner at Morrison & Chase specializing in employment discrimination, mother of 2, a homeowner in the Cedar Grove Historic District for 6 years, and on June 14, 2019, 38 years old. Before we go further into what happened that afternoon, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. Old, and if accountability stories like this matter to you, hit subscribe. We cover every case where the system actually works, sometimes. Cedar Grove sits on the northeast side of Columbus, Ohio. Tree-lined streets. Victorian homes restored with historical society plaques. Old. The kind of neighborhood where people know their mail carriers by name and argue about proper hedge heights at HOA meetings. Janelle Reeves' house stood on West Haven Court, a cul-de-sac of 8 homes built in 1924, assessed between $500,000 and $700,000 each. Old, her corner lot included a wraparound porch, detached garage converted to a home office, and a backyard that could comfortably hold 50 people for a garden party. Which is exactly what was happening at 3:15 p.m. on Saturday, June 14, 2019. The weather was perfect, 78 degrees, low humidity. Old. String lights hung between oak trees that had been standing since before the neighborhood was integrated. Old, 2 folding tables held catered food from Lindsay's Southern Kitchen. Mac and cheese, collard greens, jerk chicken, cornbread. Old. A Bluetooth speaker played a carefully curated playlist that ranged from Stevie Wonder to Kendrick Lamar. Old. Volume set to exactly the level where you could still have conversations. The guest list included colleagues from her firm, friends from her book club, old neighbors from 3 blocks in every direction, her younger sister who'd driven in from Cleveland, and 2 families from her daughter's elementary school. 47 people total, ages ranging from 4 to 69. The cake sat on a separate table under a pop-up canopy. 3 tiers. Sold chocolate ganache exterior with hand-piped roses. Raspberry filling, a custom topper that read 38 never looked so good in gold script. Cost, old $285. It was supposed to be cut at 4 p.m. after Janelle's sister gave a toast. The first police car arrived at 3:42 p.m. Not because of noise, not because of parking complaints, but because a 911 caller reported suspicious activity at the residence, specifically a large gathering of black people in a white neighborhood. That caller's identity would later be revealed during discovery. Patricia Hemming, age 72, old, resident of West Haven Court for 41 years. No prior relationship with Janelle Reeves. No previous complaints about the property. Old, but a documented history of calling police on her neighbors. 11 calls in 3 years, all involving people of color, none resulting in arrests or citations. Old. The responding officers were Marcus Draylen and his partner, Officer Jennifer Kowalski, a 3-year veteran. They would arrive in separate vehicles, Draylen first. Janelle Margot Reeves grew up in Akron, the eldest daughter of 2 public school teachers. Her father taught American history. Her mother taught English. Old dinner table conversations involved Supreme Court cases the way other families discuss sports. She graduated high school valedictorian. Full academic scholarship to Georgetown for undergrad, political science, magna cum laude. Her senior thesis analyzed patterns in federal civil rights litigation from 1964 to 2004. It won the Departmental Award for Outstanding Undergraduate Research. Old Stanford Law came next. She turned down Harvard, Yale, Old, and Columbia because Stanford's clinical program allowed first-year students to work on actual cases under supervision. Old. She spent a summer at the Southern Poverty Law Center, another summer clerking for a federal judge in the Northern District of California. Upon graduation, Old, she joined the NAACP Legal Defense Fund as a Thurgood Marshall Fellow, a position that receives roughly 800 applications annually for 12 slots. Old, she worked employment discrimination cases, housing discrimination, voting rights challenges in the South. Old, she argued before the Sixth Circuit twice before she turned 30. In 2015, she was recruited to Morrison & Chase, a mid-sized firm in Columbus with a sterling reputation in civil rights litigation. She made partner in 3 years, youngest in the firm's 42-year history. Old. Her client list included teachers wrongfully terminated, employees subjected to hostile work environments, Old, and plaintiffs in a class action case against a regional healthcare system for discriminatory hiring practices. She'd won settlements totaling $14 million across her career. She lectured at Ohio State's law school every spring. She mentored students through the Black Law Students Association. She served on the board of the Columbus Urban League. She married at 33. Her husband, David Old, was a software engineer at a healthcare tech startup. They had 2 daughters, ages 6 and 4, in June 2019. The family attended Grace Community Church. Old, they vacationed at Martha's Vineyard each August. Their lives were structured, stable, meticulously planned. The birthday party was Janelle's idea. Old, she usually kept celebrations small, but turning 38 felt different. Her practice was thriving. Both girls were healthy. The mortgage was manageable. Old. She wanted to acknowledge the people who'd supported her, colleagues who covered her cases when family emergencies arose, neighbors who accepted UPS deliveries, friends who showed up with wine when trials went badly. She sent invitations 4 weeks in advance. She hired caterers 2 weeks out. Old, she confirmed the cake order 3 times. She created a Spotify playlist that took her 6 hours to perfect. On the morning of June 14th, she woke at 6:30 a.m. Old, she went for a run. 4 miles through the neighborhood. She showered. She made pancakes for her daughters. She helped David set up tables in the backyard. Old, she put on a yellow sundress she'd bought specifically for this day. Guests started arriving at 2 p.m. By 3 p.m., the party was in full swing. People were eating, laughing, taking photos. Her younger sister was gathering everyone for the cake toast. Janelle stood near the dessert table, Old, talking to a colleague about an upcoming deposition. That's when she saw the police cruiser pull up to the curb. Old, Marcus Allen Draylen joined the Columbus Police Department in 2007, age 26. Prior military service, 4 years Army, honorable discharge, no college degree. Old, academy graduation in the middle of his class. First assignment, Patrol Division, Northeast Precinct. Old. His personnel file would eventually become a key exhibit in federal litigation. 412 pages. 41 civilian complaints over 12 years. Old, categories range from discourteous behavior to excessive force to racial profiling. Complaint examples 2009, traffic stop of a black male driver. Old, age 19. Driver alleged Draylen searched the vehicle without consent, made comments about thugs in nice cars, and damaged the interior during the search. Internal Affairs found insufficient evidence. No discipline. 2011, domestic disturbance call. Black female caller reported her boyfriend. Old. When she questioned why Draylen was handcuffing her instead of the boyfriend, she alleged he told her to shut up and let the men handle this. Complaint sustained. Written reprimand. No suspension. 2013, stop and frisk of 2 black teenagers walking home from basketball practice. Parents alleged Draylen demanded ID without cause. Old. Threatened arrest for loitering and made statements about what happens to kids who don't respect authority. Complaint dismissed. Draylen's report stated he observed furtive movements. 2015, traffic stop of a black woman, age 42, Old, for failure to signal. Woman was a city council member. She recorded the interaction. Old, Draylen's tone was described in the IA report as hostile and confrontational without provocation. Complaint sustained. 5-day suspension. 2017, wellness check at the home of an elderly black man. Neighbors had called because they hadn't seen him in days. Man was fine, just recovering from surgery. Old. But he later complained that Draylen entered his home without permission and refused to leave when asked. Complaint not sustained. Draylen's report claimed he had reasonable suspicion of distress. 41 complaints in 12 years. That's 3.4 complaints per year. National average for officers with similar tenure 0.8 per year. 39 of the 41 complaints involved people of color. 31 specifically involved black civilians. 0 involved white civilians in similar circumstances. Of those 41 complaints, 7 were sustained. Discipline ranged from written reprimands to short suspensions. 0 cases resulted in termination. 0 cases resulted in extended suspension without pay. 0 cases triggered mandatory retraining in de-escalation or bias awareness. His partners rotated frequently. His performance evaluations contained repeated notes from supervisors. Struggles with community engagement. Needs improvement in verbal communication. Reports are factually accurate, but tone and field interactions requires monitoring. He'd never been promoted beyond patrol officer. He'd applied for detective positions 3 times, rejected each time. His firearms qualifications were consistently above average. His arrest numbers were among the highest in his precinct. Command staff viewed him as productive but problematic. On June 14, 2019, he was working a regular Saturday shift 4 to midnight Northeast Precinct, solo patrol in car 7 Charlie 16. His partner for the day, Officer Kowalski, was in a separate vehicle but assigned to the same zone. At 3:30 p.m., dispatch sent him to investigate a suspicious activity, call at 8047 West Haven Court. The caller, later identified as Patricia Hemming, reported a large gathering that didn't belong in the neighborhood. Dispatch notes would later show the call. Taker asked if there was any criminal activity. Hemming said no. Just a lot of people who don't live here. Under department policy, this type of call didn't require a response. No crime, no emergency. It could have been logged and cleared. But Draylen responded. He arrived at 3:42 p.m., and he didn't knock on the front door. He walked directly to the backyard. Marcus Draylen's body camera activated automatically when he exited his vehicle. The footage, later released to the media after public records requests, shows him approaching the property at 3:42 and 16 seconds p.m. He doesn't pause at the sidewalk, doesn't check the address against the dispatch notes, doesn't radio that he's on scene. He walks up the driveway, past 2 cars parked legally on the street, and directly to the side gate leading to the backyard. The gate is open, music is playing. He can hear conversation and laughter. He enters the backyard without announcing himself. Janelle Reeves is standing 15 feet from the gate, near the cake table. Mid-conversation with her colleague Marcus Chen, about a deposition scheduled for the following Tuesday. She's holding a plate with a piece of jerk chicken and cornbread. Draylen walks directly toward her. Mom, I need to see ID now. Janelle turns. She's confused. There's a uniformed officer in her backyard, but no one called the police. No disturbance. Excuse me. ID. Let's see it. I'm sorry. Is there a problem? Officer. This is where confusion meets authority, where a reasonable question gets interpreted as resistance. Where a woman standing in her own backyard holding a paper plate becomes a threat requiring immediate compliance. Draylen's hand moves to his belt, not to his weapon. But to the handcuffs. The body camera captures it. A micro movement that signals escalation. I'm not asking again, ID. Janelle sets down her plate. Her colleague Marcus Chen steps back, phone already out. He starts recording. Within 30 seconds, 8 other guests have their phones out too. Officer. This is my home. I'm the homeowner. I don't need to show you ID in my own backyard. Wrong answer. Draylen steps closer. They're now 6 feet apart. 47 people are watching. The music is still playing Stevie Wonder's Higher Ground. The moment has a surreal quality. Half the guests don't realize what's happening. The other half are frozen. Don't get smart with me. ID now. Janelle's training kicks in. Years of depositions. Courtroom experience. She knows her rights. She also knows that being right doesn't always prevent escalation. She keeps her voice calm, measured, professional. I'm Janelle Reeves. I own this house. I live here. These are my guests. We're having a birthday party. If there's a noise complaint, I'm happy to turn down the music. But I'm not required to show you identification on my own property without reasonable suspicion of a crime. This is where legal accuracy meets badge authority. Where a civil rights attorney's knowledge of constitutional law intersects with an officer who views questions as challenges. Last chance before your face, down on the ground. The backyard goes silent. Someone turns off the music. Janelle's sister, standing 10 feet away, says, Janelle, just show him your license. Other guests murmur agreement, de-escalate. Comply. Survive the encounter. But Janelle sees something in Draylen's eyes. She's seen it before. In depositions. In courtroom testimony from officers with 41 complaints. It's not about ID, it's about control. Old. About punishing a black woman for asserting her rights in a neighborhood where someone decided she didn't belong. Officer, I'm literally standing next to my birthday cake. She gestures to the three-tier cake. The gold topper, the canopy, the presents stacked on a nearby chair. Old. The absurdity of the moment crystallizes. She's not a suspect. She's a homeowner at her own party. Draylon doesn't look at the cake. Doesn't acknowledge the witnesses. Old. Doesn't call for backup. Doesn't radio his supervisor. That's it. Hands behind your back. What are you? His hand grabs her left wrist. Old, she reflexively pulls back. Not aggressively, but instinctively. The way anyone might react to sudden physical contact. I said hands. Old, he wrenches her arm behind her back. She gasps. People start yelling. Her sister screams her name. Marcus Chen is shouting, "She's the homeowner! She lives here! You're hurting me?" Should have complied when I gave you the chance. This is where bad becomes irreversible. Old, where an unlawful detention becomes assault. Where body camera footage captures something that cannot be explained away. Draylon sweeps Janelle's legs. She goes down, not onto grass. Onto the corner of the dessert table. Her face impacts the edge of the cake stand. Then the cake itself, chocolate ganache, raspberry filling, blood. Old, 9 cameras capture it from different angles. The sound is visceral, gasping, screaming. Janelle's daughters, ages 6 and 4, start crying. Old. They were playing near the back fence. Now they're watching their mother pinned to the ground, face pressed into her own birthday cake, blood mixing with frosting. Old, Draylon kneels on her back, applies handcuffs. His body camera shows her face. A gash above her left eyebrow, another on her cheekbone, blood flowing from both. She's not resisting, she's trying to breathe. The timestamp on the body camera, 13:44 p.m. Old. 90 seconds from first contact to a civil rights attorney bleeding into her birthday cake. Her colleague Marcus Chen is still recording. Old. His video would later be played at city council meetings, on CNN, in federal court. "She told you she owns the house! She showed you no aggression! She's a lawyer!" Draylon ignores him, radios dispatch. 7 Charlie 16, 1 in custody. Resisting arrest, need a wagon at I-47 West Ave. Old. Officer Jennifer Kowalski arrives at 30:46 p.m. She's Draylon's partner for the day, but was patrolling 2 blocks away. She heard his radio traffic. 1 in custody. Old. Resisting, she enters the backyard and immediately recognizes that something is catastrophically wrong. 47 people, phones out, shouting. A woman handcuffed on the ground bleeding, a birthday cake destroyed, 2 small children crying. And Draylon standing over Janelle Reeves like he's just subdued an armed suspect. Kowalski's body camera captures her first words, "Marcus, what the hell happened?" Old subject refused to provide ID, became aggressive, resisted arrest. Kowalski looks at the crowd, looks at the cake, the presents, the string lights. Old. The 38 never looked so good, topper now covered in blood. "This is her house, Marcus. This is her house. I was here 6 months ago for a neighborhood watch meeting. She hosted it. This is Dr. Reeves. She's an attorney. She lives here. This is where training meets reality." Old. Where a 3-year officer has to decide whether to back her partner or acknowledge an unlawful arrest. Kowalski kneels next to Janelle. "Mom, I'm going to remove the handcuffs." "I'm so sorry." Janelle doesn't respond. She's pressing her hand to her face, trying to stop the bleeding. Her yellow sundress is ruined. Chocolate and blood. Her sister runs over with napkins. Draylon's jaw tightens. He still hasn't acknowledged the mistake. Still hasn't called for an ambulance. His hand rests on his belt. She refused to comply. "She doesn't need to come play! It's her house!" I had reasonable suspicion. Of what? Having a birthday party. This is where partner loyalty fractures. So where an officer decides her career isn't worth covering for 40, one complaints wearing a badge. Kowalski radios dispatch directly. 7 Charlie 18, cancel the wagon. No arrest, need an ambulance at 847 West Ave. Citizen injured. Also need a supervisor, code 2. Code 2 means non-emergency but urgent. Old, it means something went wrong and command needs to be notified immediately. Sergeant William Foster arrives at 30:52 p.m. 22-year veteran. Old. Supervisor for the Northeast Precinct Patrol teams. He enters the backyard and assesses the scene in under 10 seconds. Blood, destroyed cake, crowd filming. All handcuffs removed. Officer Kowalski standing between Draylon and the victim, and Draylon's body camera still recording. Foster's first action. Old, he separates Draylon from the scene. Officer Draylon, return to your vehicle. Now, Sarge, she refused vehicle. Now, do not make me repeat myself. Old, Draylon walks back to his cruiser. His body camera is still active. He sits in the driver's seat. Doesn't turn off the camera. Old. The footage shows him gripping the steering wheel, jaw clenched. 23 minutes of him sitting there before the camera finally deactivates. Old Foster approaches Janelle. She's sitting now, her sister applying pressure to the wounds with kitchen towels. Paramedics arrive 2 minutes later. "Mom, I'm Sergeant Foster. Can you tell me what happened?" Janelle recounts it, calm, precise, like she's giving deposition testimony. Foster takes notes, asks for witness names, asks if anyone recorded video. 14 hands go up. Foster confiscates Draylen's badge that night, not permanently, pending investigation, but he removes him from duty before the shift ends. The ambulance takes Janelle to Riverside Methodist Hospital. 14 stitches. 7 above the eyebrow. Old 7 on the cheekbone, no concussion, but significant soft tissue trauma. She's discharged at 7:15 p.m. Her birthday party ended at 4:08 p.m., 26 minutes after it began. By Sunday morning, the videos were online. Marcus Chen uploaded his footage to Twitter at 11:47 p.m. Saturday night. 6-minute clip. No commentary. Just raw footage with the caption, "Old. Columbus police officer assaults homeowner at her own birthday party. Teases why we need accountability." It had 40,000 views by midnight. Old 200,000 by Sunday morning. By Monday, it was on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and local affiliates in 37 states. The headlines wrote themselves. Cop slams lawyer's face into birthday cake during unlawful arrest. Ohio officer under investigation after assault at private party. Attorney injured by police at her own birthday celebration. The Columbus Police Department issued a statement Monday afternoon. Old boilerplate language. Incident under investigation. Officer on administrative leave. Cannot comment on pending internal review. Janelle hired representation immediately. Not her own firm. Morrison & Chase handled employment cases. Not civil rights torts. She contacted Benjamin Crump's office. Crump connected her with a local partner, attorney David Mills, Old, who'd won 8-figure settlements in 3 prior police misconduct cases. Old. The demand letter arrived at the city attorney's office on June 28, 14 days after the incident. It outlined the claims: unlawful detention, excessive force, assault and battery, violation of Fourth Amendment rights, emotional distress, loss of enjoyment of property, and violation of Ohio's civil rights statutes. Damages sought $12 million. The city's response: deny everything, claim qualified immunity, file motions to dismiss. Depositions began in October 2019. Old. Draylen invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination in 68 instances. His attorney advised him not to answer questions about prior complaints. Old. Training on de-escalation, or his decision to enter the backyard without announcing himself. But the body camera footage didn't need his testimony. Old 9 witness videos didn't need his explanation. 41 prior complaints didn't need his context. Discovery revealed Patricia Hemming's 911 call. Old. Her history of targeting neighbors of color. Old. Her interview with Internal Affairs where she admitted she called police because she didn't recognize the people at Janelle's party. Old. Discovery also revealed Draylen's personnel file. Every complaint, every sustained violation, every written reprimand. Old. The pattern wasn't just clear. It was documented, time-stamped, and approved by supervisors who kept promoting him back to patrol. The Columbus City Council held a public hearing in December 2019. Janelle testified. So did her sister. So did Marcus Chen. So did 3 other guests. 16 people spoke during public comment. Every single one demanded accountability. The city settled in March 2020 $6.8 million. At the time, the largest civil rights settlement in Columbus history. Terms included payment to Janelle Reeves $6.8 million, termination of Marcus Draylen, all effective immediately, forfeiture of pension eligibility, overturned later by union arbitration. Old. But his service credit was frozen. Mandatory retraining for all patrol officers in constitutional policing. Implementation of new body camera policies requiring cameras to activate upon any citizen contact. Creation of a civilian review board with subpoena-powered. Draylen's termination letter, all obtained through public records requests, included this line: Officer Draylen's actions on June 14, 2019, violated department policy, state law, old, and the constitutional rights of a citizen. His conduct displayed a pattern of bias, excessive force, and disregard for de-escalation protocols. This termination is effective immediately and is without appeal rights due to the severity of the misconduct. The letter was dated March 23, 2020, old 9 months and 9 days after Janelle Reeves' face hit her birthday cake. Draylen appealed through his union. The appeal was denied. Old. He filed for unemployment benefits. Denied. He attempted to join another police department in a neighboring county. They declined his application after reviewing his personnel file. As of 2024, Marcus Draylen works private security at a shopping mall. Old. He has never publicly apologized. He has never acknowledged wrongdoing. Janelle Reeves used part of the settlement to fund a nonprofit, the Accountability Project. Old. It provides free legal representation to victims of police misconduct who can't afford civil rights attorneys. Old. It's trained over 200 lawyers in Ohio on constitutional policing cases, and it's helped secure 9 additional settlements totaling $14 million. Old. At the Columbus City Council hearing in December 2019, Janelle Reeves gave 18 minutes of testimony. The chamber was packed. Local media covered it live. Her statement, excerpted here, was quoted in 27 news articles and became a teaching tool at 3 law schools. Old. I want to be clear about what happened on June 14th. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't a training failure. It wasn't an accident. Old. An officer saw black people gathered in a white neighborhood and decided we didn't belong. He saw me, a woman in a sundress holding a plate of chicken at her own birthday party, and saw a threat. He didn't see the cake. Didn't see the presents. Old. Didn't see my daughters playing in the yard. He saw what 41 prior complaints trained him to see, someone who needed to be controlled, punished, old, put in their place. I told him I was the homeowner. He didn't believe me. I told him it was my party. He didn't care. I asserted my constitutional rights. He responded with violence. And when my face hit that table, when blood mixed with frosting, when my children started screaming, what was he thinking? Old. Was he thinking about public safety? About protecting the community? Or was he thinking about a woman who dared to question his authority? I'm an attorney. Old, I know my rights. I had the resources to fight back. I had witnesses with cameras. I had legal training. I had the privilege of survival. Old. But what about the people who don't? What about the people who can't afford representation? Who don't have 47 witnesses recording? Old. Who don't have the education to articulate constitutional violations in real time? Those people don't get settlements. They get arrest records. Old. They get injuries without accountability. They get trauma without justice. This isn't about one officer. Old. It's about a system that received 41 complaints about Marcus Draylen and responded with written reprimands. A system that saw a pattern of racial bias and did nothing. A system that waited until a civil rights attorney got her face slammed into a birthday cake on camera before saying, maybe this is a problem. I don't want an apology from Officer Draylen. I want systemic change. I want accountability mechanisms with teeth. Old. I want civilian oversight with subpoena power. I want mandatory de-escalation training that's actually enforced. Old. I want officers with 41 complaints removed from the streets, not protected by qualified immunity. Because if we don't fix the system that allowed this to happen, old, we're just waiting for the next video, the next settlement, the next person bleeding in their own backyard while their children watch. That's not public safety. Old, that's state-sanctioned violence. The chamber erupted in applause. The council voted unanimously to accept the settlement terms and implement the policy changes. Old. 2 council members cried during their remarks. Janelle's testimony was played during police academy training sessions in 7 states. Old. It became required reading in civil rights litigation courses, and it became the foundation for the Accountability Project's mission statement. 41 complaint. 12 years. 0 terminations before 14/2019. That's not bad luck. That's not a few bad interactions. That's a pattern. A pattern that command staff documented, old supervisors witnessed, and the system protected. Marcus Draylen didn't become who he was in 90 seconds in a backyard. Old. He became who he was over 12 years of learning that his behavior had no consequences. That complaints got filed and dismissed. Old. That supervisors would note areas for improvement and send him back to patrol. That the union would protect him. That qualified immunity would shield him. Old. He learned that power without accountability is just power. And power plus pattern equals danger. Janelle Reeves survived because she had resources, education, old witnesses, cameras, a profession that gave her the language to articulate her rights even while bleeding. But survival isn't justice. Survival is the baseline. Old. Justice is what comes after. And in this case, justice came in the form of a $6.8 million check, a termination letter. Old. And policy changes that might prevent the next Marcus Draylen from making it to year 12. But here's the real question: what changes now? Old. Because settlements don't reform systems. Viral videos don't rewrite policies. Old. One officer's termination doesn't address the infrastructure that produced 41 ignored complaints. Real change requires old, civilian review boards with actual authority, not advisory roles. Early warning systems that trigger intervention at 5 complaints, old, not 41. Termination without union appeal rights for sustained violations of constitutional rights. Elimination of qualified immunity for officers with documented patterns of misconduct. Public databases of officer complaints. Accessible to defense attorneys and journalists. Mandatory bias training that's measured by behavioral change. Old, not attendance sheets, because if we don't fix the system that allowed Patricia Hemming to call 900 alone about. Suspicious. People having a birthday party, and then dispatched an officer with 41 complaints to investigate. Then we're just waiting for the next Janelle Reeves. Old, the next person who did everything right and still ended up bleeding. The next video that goes viral. The next settlement that taxpayers fund while the officer who caused it keeps their pension. Marcus Draylen's career is over. That's consequence. But the city paid $6.8 million. That's accountability. But the system that created him, that system is still operating in police departments across America, still protecting officers with complaint patterns, still dismissing red flags, still prioritizing officer protection over community safety. Old, still treating constitutional violations as HR issues instead of criminal behavior. Janelle Reeves turned her trauma into action. Old, the Accountability Project has helped 9 families secure justice. She lectures at law schools. She trains attorneys. Old, she appears before legislative committees arguing for policy reform. But she shouldn't have to. None of them should have to. Old, victims shouldn't be responsible for fixing the systems that harm them. That's our job, as voters, as citizens. Old, as people who decide what kind of accountability we demand from the people we give badges and guns. So here's the final question, and I want you to answer in the comments. Old, do you think officers with documented patterns of misconduct should be automatically removed from patrol duty before they cause permanent harm? Drop your answer below. Old, and if you think stories like this need to be told, hit that subscribe button. Because accountability doesn't happen in silence. It happens when we refuse to look away, when we demand more than settlements, when we insist that consequence isn't optional. Janelle Reeves got her justice. 41 complaints later. Old, Marcus Draylen faced his consequence. The question is, how many more complaints should we tolerate before that becomes the standard, not the exception? Old, where are you on this? Comments open. Let's talk about what real accountability looks like.